Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sometimes I catch myself doing other stuff that I really shouldn't be doing at this time. But you just have to go with the flow and try to make it work out. And in making it work out, I gotta get some adjustments done, and then we'll be right into the show. One of the things I want to do is show you a video. And this video is important because it tells you about a people, about a person that I just can't, I can show you. I have told you about this, but until you see it for yourself, it's very little more that I could tell you. It's very little that I could tell you. But I got to play it and just give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So give me just a second, because we're going to get through this not quickly today. We're going to do it the right way. I'm going to do it the right way. Let me see if I can get myself small and add this to the screen. I need y'all to watch this. Right here, you see the memorial that's there. A couple of politicians have walked out here, walked on the other side of that street and did what they did. And if ever there was a chance for us to unite and join together under one cause and vote Governor Abbott out, this is it. This is it. You saw me at Mickey Leland statue, his monument for him about 2 days ago, where I grew up. But if I want something done, and I want to make sure I reverse this camera once or twice. If ever you want something done, you have to come out and do it yourself. You can't ask everybody else to do it if you're not willing to come out yourself. Look over my shoulder as I stand here. I told you I was coming out. I gassed up the pace and I got out here. And I just want to let you know that this is still going on. This is still part of what's going on in Texas. If we can't do anything about it, we can do something at election time. We can make our vote count. Today is 60 days out from election time. I want to say this again. Don't forget this. Don't ever forget this. Because we united and we came together as a front. This is not the first time. This is not the first time that we ever came together. Remember the George Floyd march? I remember the chief of police. He could have came down there and acted a outright fool. Arcedeo was, I think that was his name. I might have got the pronunciation wrong. But he came down there and he united us under one cause. He came down there and he pulled off his mask. He was marching with the protesters. He was marching with the protesters. This is not the first time in Houston that we went through this battle. But this is a bigger battle because, see, Abbott don't want you to talk about this. Abbott wants you to talk about something else. We need to talk about this. We need to put this out. We need to make sure that everybody has a record of somebody being murdered in the state of Texas at a cost. At a cost. This man lost his life. He lost his life because he was trying to go to work. He had workers in his car. He was trying to go somewhere. Not just everyday, he was just an everyday citizen. But see, it's election time. Now they want you to forget this. They want you to forget about what happened. They want you to go about your way, about your day and say, oh no, this ain't gonna happen. Abbott ain't been down here one time. You know why? Because he's part of the reason why we're here now. He's part of the reason why I'm out here right now, because Abbott won't come to nothing like this. You know why? And I'm gonna tell you why. Because he follows the orders of Trump. So if you continue to want somebody that follows orders from people that's outside of the state of Texas, that doesn't have any pride in the state of Texas, continue to follow him. But don't expect things to change within your community. Don't expect people to see you change for the better. I brought that tape up because I needed you to understand that we have a different objective on this today. Our objective is to show people the generations that went before us that did things for us to come together and get Abbott out of the office. This is probably one of the closest things, but I don't want you to get caught up in polls. I want you to get caught up in actually registering to vote and going to the polls and vote. Because if we don't do that, we're just a waste. This is a waste of our time. Even with what I just showed you, if you're a Hispanic voter, you should have all the reasons in the world to vote, to get out and vote. Because if you're tired of people every day in the news, you're hearing something about what ICE did. If you're hearing about what ICE did to pick up people on the side of the road to murder this particular guy and not take accountability, and the only thing the governor said was he's going to have his Texas Rangers investigate this, you need to check, because if you don't check, this is just going to be another murder that happened. And I want to get into this show that I got because I need to get you to understand that this is just one of the murders. I'm not going to put this next murder on Governor Abbott, but it is something for blacks to understand that if we want to stop repeating a cycle, the best way to stop repeating a cycle is to think about the wrongs that have been done to us. And not us in particular, but look at George Floyd. Everybody's seen that wrong. Everybody. It took everybody across the U.S. to even bring recognition to it. And then even when they brought it to him, they still tried to destroy him. That kind of stuff can't happen. You got a Hispanic that was killed and murdered. You got George Floyd that was killed and murdered. And one of the things that came out of George Floyd's mouth was mama. Mama. He was from Texas. Buried right here in near Houston in Pearland. But here's the ugly part about it. I have it on videotape, but I don't want to go into it. Here's the ugly part about it. I don't want to share it with I don't even want to know where he's buried at out there. Just to know he's resting in peace is enough for me, because it's just some evil people out there. And I said this during the video. There's some evil people out there that would go out there and do something to destroy his grave. And I don't want to give them that ammunition to do that. I want you to recognize what he did and feel like something has at least changed, if it's nothing else. Because now they know that they can get caught and they can possibly go to jail. But here's the other part that I want to talk to that. And I didn't think about it till I was sitting here, so I ain't going to take all this genius. But just think about it. The man that killed George Floyd went to jail. He got moved to Texas. And somehow this fool that's in office, Trump, is thinking about pardoning him. Imagine that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this is all happening. If Governor, just think about it. Trump told Governor Abbott to pardon this man. Governor Abbott probably have him back at home within a couple of days, because this state is no longer ran by Governor Abbott. It's ran by whoever has the most influence in Texas. And that's not our state. That's not what we stood for. Texas has to stand for Texas first. If Texas is not going to stand for itself, we need to get him out of office. We need to stop continuing voting for him and his his down ballot. We need to stop voting for his down ballot if they're not going to stand for Texas. See, Texas is not just made of billionaires like Elon Musk. Most of the people in Texas go to work every day and try to make a living for their family. Honestly. You may not like the way that they do it, but they do it to take care of their families, and they go out there and they try. The objective at the end of the day is to come home. But if we keep people like Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and all of them in place, If they want to change anything, they had 30 years to change it. The only time I see them hop and jump is when that man in D.C. told them that he needed to have Texas redistrict. He need 5 seats down here. And he did it. He jumped. Didn't even say how high or where to go or anything like that. He jumped. And every state in the union after that happened had to change, had permission to redistrict their map, so to speak. They're still fighting it in court. We lost seats. But we don't have to lose everything. We can correct some of it by putting Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico in office. But I don't want to get sidetracked, but I always do anyway. If we don't put Texas first, over any other election that's out there, any other thing that could go on nationally, if we don't put Texas first, I'm going to say it here, and I'm going to show you how on Wednesday. It's a possibility we could lose too. We could lose the Gina Hinojosa race and the James Tallarico race here. That would be disappointing, but I'm going to tell you, it would be devastating for people that's in Texas. It would be devastating. So if you don't like what you see, you need to get out and vote. And the only way that you get a voice is you have to go out and vote, not talk about it, not talk about how bad Abbott is and all the rest of that, but go out and physically vote. That gives you a voice to change everything. Because we can sit there and we can talk about what happened to Jasmine Crockett. We can be in our feelings about Jasmine Crockett. But this ultimately is about politics. And we know what happened with Jasmine, but we somehow have to move on because we have to realize that the other side is playing politics. And if we don't play politics, we're going to be left behind. And you can't let anybody come into Texas and tell you how your candidates for office succeed. Go to wherever they want them to go. Because if you don't understand this one message that I'm about to deliver right now, you don't understand politics. You don't understand the dynamics of where we at right now. And they don't like me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Gina Hinojosa can change things in Texas. In Texas. Get that through your mind. Gina Hinojosa can make changes in Texas. James Tallarico can talk about those same things, but he can't change anything in Texas. Anything. He can go solicit funding. He can bring funding back to Texas, but he cannot directly change anything within Texas. That border that we live in, he can't change that. Now, he can come back and talk to a governor, and hopefully the governor lends his ear to the changes that he wants to make. But let me ask you a question. They've been in power for 30 years. How many people have heard a senator come back and talk to Governor Abbott and change stuff? So what makes you think? Just physically think. I'm just asking you to open up your mind and just think. You send a Democratic senator off to Washington. When he comes back to the state of Texas, do you think Abbott's going to open up his arms and just walk him right in and say, hey, man, you're right. We need to do this, this, and this? Some of the stuff we have to take ourselves. Some of the stuff we have to try to put ourselves in that perspective. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. If Texas, and I haven't even got into it, but if Texas doesn't go Texas first, you see the sign behind me? If they don't put Texas first, one state, one purpose, one people, one future, there's a possibility we could lose both seats. Because one without the other one really doesn't do one does something in D.C., one does something in Texas, and every down ballot candidate up under her, she needs their support. So let me go here. I hear what you're saying about Jasmine. You're saying, oh, she should just come and run and do all of this with James Tallarico. Let me tell you something. James Tallarico has a national campaign running. Not just in the state of Texas. James Tallarico is showing up everywhere in the nation. And you may say, well, Ron, you know, that's what we need. We need that senator up there to represent. No, we need a governor if you live in the state of Texas, because if you want what's best for Texas, that senator is leaving. That governor is still here. Any excuses that they can make up on the Republican side, they've been in office for 30 years. You can't invite somebody into the state of Texas and then right before election, you find out that Texans are against that. Then you want to start changing the just because of election up. I'm talking about Abbott and these data centers. He brought them here. He announced it. Make him accountable for it. There's so many things that Abbott has did that he puts his name on, and then he's not accountable for it. You think, here's something. Think about this. Harris County is having to raise their taxes to meet the goals. Abbott is giving tax breaks away to the rich for those data centers being here. Is he going to come back and then take back those tax breaks that's going on for years and years? Do you think he's going to put any type of legislation together to take back those tax breaks that he gave them so other counties? Because if Harris County is one of the largest counties, what do you think every other county in the state of Texas is going to have to do? They're going to have to raise their rates too to meet the needs. Let's take it one step further. I ain't even got into my show. Let's take it one step further. Have you heard Abbott say anything? Texas is about oil and cattle. Let's get that straight. Oil and cattle. Texas University got a longhorn cattle as a mascot. But that tells you about what Texas is about. So if Abbott is about Texas, why is he letting Trump import all that beef from Argentina? Let's use some common sense. You haven't heard him stand up. You haven't heard him stand up and say anything about that cattle that's coming into Texas. I see you out there, Papa. I see you out there, Papa. You haven't heard him say anything about that cattle that Trump has let come into the U.S. from Argentina. Are we not the state of oil and cattle? Is that not what we stand for? Or did we change? See, it's a lot of stuff that's been happening over the last 30 years that we should be reminding ourselves as we go out and vote. And here. Now I'm gonna share it. I didn't come up with this one. I was in a conversation and I heard this one, but I remember it because I felt it for myself. Do you remember when some of y'all had generators, so y'all didn't really get a chance to feel it as I did? But there's a lot more people that didn't have generators. And generators even shut down during that time. Do you remember when we froze in the state of Texas because our power went out? Because our power system, the whole grid went out? People lost their lives at that time. People lost lives in that freeze. I just want to remind you of some stuff that's on his watch. I want to remind you of the flood where kids lost their life. You may say, well, he ain't have nothing. That's a natural disaster. Well, if you knew that there was a warning system that should have been in place to save people, and that was on your watch, governor stands for something, right? Doesn't it? Or we don't hold him accountable for it. I'm gonna keep going because you need to understand that this has been on their watch. What about an attorney general that's committed so many offenses, but he still got saved in the legislative by Dan Patrick? He was impeached in the House. He shouldn't be running against anybody. The National Party don't want to put any money behind him. That's Ken Paxton, part of the down ballot of Governor Abbott. So since you're the governor, you take on all of that responsibility too. ICE, being in our state, running rapid, looking for people. So when he closed down the border, I guess that gave him open reign to go hunt people down and kill them. The hunting grounds are Texas, witnessed by the guy that got killed right here in Houston, trying to go to work, chased by unmarked cars. And then it was like a little gap, I guess, in between him, and he thought he still had a chance out. He hadn't identified who those people are. So he took it, tried to take it. So that if you want a reason to not vote for Abbott, I'm giving you. If we don't change it, we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And Abbott has proved time and time again that he's going to do it his way. And his way is not for everyday citizens that's out there. It's more of us. But here, let's tell some truths on this. Over the years, Abbott has developed $67 million in his bid for re-election. He has that at his disposal. Gina Hinojosa has maybe $3 or $4 million at the most. She doesn't have that same money as Tallarico, but Tallarico is getting to a point where he's going to have to start asking for more money because the Democratic Party that was backing him has to allocate to more than Texas. So unless we can get those two to come together under a Texas First plan, it's a possibility that we could lose both of them. Abbott has the money to outspend them. Oh, one more thing that I forgot. When we was going through that freeze, where was Ted Cruz? He wasn't going through it with you, was he? They caught him on the airport trying to go on vacation. Get out of here for a little while. Isn't he a part of that Republican regime that's in place? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not asking hard questions. I'm just remembering some of the stuff that's right in our face right now. So when Ted Cruz comes back and he's representing his district, do you think he can go to Abbott and get changes made, or bring money to help Abbott do whatever he's going to do, or bring the messages from the president to Abbott, and Abbott acts on them? Oh yes. They're not that smart. The only reason why they look smart is because we allow them to be that way. Papa Joe, I still see you out there. I appreciate you coming on. And it's a little bit hot where I'm at. I need to turn up the air conditioner a little bit. Speaking of being cold, I know what cold feels like. I really do know what cold feels like. But I'm gonna tell you something. One of the things that I need you to do is you follow me. Go out and follow Howdy Politics. Kate Vargas. She's back active again. Kate Vargas. Go out and follow Candace Weber. She stood up in a meeting and she said she challenged James Tallarico here in Houston, made national news. But we have to challenge not just James Tallarico. We have to challenge the Republicans at the same time. You see this coming down my face? Sweat. That's the reason why when you see me come on here, I'm always sweating. You know, we have the opportunity. This is probably the closest we ever get. Don't believe the polls, because the polls going to tell you that Gina Hinojosa is close. Yes, she may be close, but we don't want close. We want something that says we've done something. So when the polls open for early voting, we need to be backed up around the corner. We need to have people coming out to support us with water and stuff in that line, because it may be hot. And if you got an umbrella or something, come out in that line and help support those people, because we need to get everybody into the voting place, because they're doing everything that they can to shut it down. And the only way that we make a difference is that we got to come out and support our people while they're in line so they don't walk away. Hell, throw a couple of lawn chairs in your car if you have to. That's still helping. You know, I got started on this, but I need to get to a point, because I need to tell us the reason why it's important that we all vote. Yesterday, I went back to a couple of days ago, I went back to my old neighborhood. I showed you some of it. But in my old neighborhood, I'm going to bring up some stuff I want to show you real quick. I didn't come from rich. I wasn't rich. I definitely wasn't on the billionaire road, but I tell you this picture I'm bringing to the stage right now is something that I need you to see. I need you to see it right here. You see that little old bitty church right there? It's located on West Hunting, right down the street from where Mickey Leland's park is. That's where I found God at, right there. At the time, it was called Metropolitan Baptist Church. And man, we used to have some church in there. The next thing I want to add to the stage is this, because I need you to see something. That right there, on the end of that house, right in front of where those cars was, that used to be a barber shop. Everybody in the neighborhood and other places used to come in and get their hair cut there. Part of a house. That was my godmother and godfather's house right there. The reason why I'm adding this stuff to the stage, because I need you to understand about community. This particular house right here, when I was growing up, right next to it, and the house that I wanted to take a picture of was all the way to the back. But this particular house right here was some of our friends. They stayed there. Now, right next to it, in between that tree and that house, you see a red brick building. I don't know if you can see it, but that's where I met a Hispanic lady that was sitting out there that morning. And she was telling me, you know, we got to look out for our people. Come to find out, she was a minister. And she just started the whole church in this particular house. And the real reason why I'm telling you about this house is because I've been inside that house as a child, and I know the people that own the house ahead of time, but that's part of the community in which I grew up in, a barbershop and a beauty shop, because my godmother had a barbershop on the far end, and my auntie where we were staying with at the time had a beauty shop, and we used to change the whole house every day so she could do hair in the beauty shop, and that's how we lived. That's how we lived as a people, as a community. And right across in front of this particular house, in front of where I'm talking about, it was a grocery store. It opened. You could call Mr. Smith and Miss Smith, and they would open up the grocery store for you to get bread, milk, or whatever. Even when the other stores were closed, you could call it at whatever time. But that was a community within itself that served a community, that served itself. And then we sit there and we go through and we talk about how far we are away from each other versus how close we are. Because in every community out there is people that's working together to make this place, make Texas better. You may not say it, you may not come out and say it, but somewhere we are crossing paths. You don't live in Texas without blacks and Hispanics crossing paths. And if you say I'm wrong, go through your day and check out what I'm saying. Go through your whole day and tell me that you don't cross paths. You don't see them in other cars. You don't see them going down the street. You don't see them anywhere within your community. They see you too, as blacks. They see you too. So you have to respect, this is Texas. This is where we live at. This is everything that we do. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna go back into what I need to do, because I need us to see something. This is Mickey Leland Park where I went the other day. I did a video on it, but due to time, I didn't think it was gonna take me this much time. But I'm gonna go back, bring myself to the stage, and I'm gonna try to go through this thing as best I possibly can in the amount of time that I have. Because that community part is the part that we forget, how we got to where we're going, because sometimes we forget where we came from. We forget, and when we forget, we on another path. Oh, I don't do that no more. I don't go back and revisit. I don't do this. I don't do that. It ain't about that. This election cycle has to be about making changes to our future. Making changes to our future, not our past, to our future. You know, as I went back there and I stood at that memorial, Mickey Leland, I've known that name for a long time because my mother had introduced me to Mickey Leland, because it wasn't nothing but a house out there. It may have been one bedroom house or something that was there that he served out of, and that was it. Right next to a bayou. Right next to a bayou. So I know I know where we came from. I know we had the ability, but standing at that monument right there does something for you. It makes you stop. It makes you ask, who was this person? Because it happened a long time ago. Who did they fight for? What did they leave behind? And then another question came to me: where are the monuments for everyone else? Where do we remember Black Texans who helped change the state? Where do we remember Hispanic Texans that helped change the state? And more importantly, do we understand what they were fighting for? Because maybe the monument isn't the end of the story. Maybe it's where the story begins. And that's what Abbott doesn't want us to understand, is that maybe that's where the story begins, because we need to understand that we're fighting the same battle. Of course, we're going to need some undecided voters to come over too. But we're going to have to fight the same battle and unify us as a whole to change things. You got two ballots going on. Both of them are statewide. They're not part here in Houston and part in Dallas, part in Austin, San Antonio. These are statewide ballots that can make a difference for everybody. And we need to look at it the same way. Because if you voting for Tallarico or you voting for Gina Hinojosa, those are statewide ballots. Everybody needs to participate. Do you know that in the last election cycle, when they ran the ballot count, that they doubled the amount of people that was voting in the state of Texas that had participated in previous elections? So I know that as a whole, we understand what we're going for. I know that as a whole, we understand what's at stake. But if we keep treating it like it's outside of Texas and where we need to change, we're defeating our own self. Because Abbott and them want you to split up. Abbott and them want you to concentrate on one or the other. They win that way. But if you don't concentrate on one or the other and you get everybody that's in Texas on the same sheet of music, including Gina Hinojosa, James Tallarico, stop wasting effort going out to different places. Combine your act together and show up together. You're starting to do it. Keep it going because they want you to divide so they win one or the other. We have the ability to win both. If you two continue to do what you're doing, I see it happening, but you need to combine up on the agenda that's one state, one purpose, one people, one future. They don't want that. They want you to divide so they can divide and conquer. And you can't let them do it if you continue to say one person is America and all the rest of this. I see all these different things where the coalitions are coming out trying to change the battle. You're playing right into their hands. You have played into their hands by being divided. Now let me share something with you. We got Black history over here. We got Hispanic history over here. We got civil rights over here. We got labor rights over there. But Texas didn't develop in separate rooms. Our histories crossed. Our struggles were different. Our experiences were different. We should never erase those differences. But Black Texas and Hispanic Texas have also confronted some similar questions. And here's the questions. Who gets educated? Who gets represented? Who gets heard? Who gets fair opportunity? Who gets to vote? They tried to take that away too. And today, they're still trying to do it. And it's coming from Washington down to the governor of Texas, and every state within the union, he's trying to change the way that we vote. Have you ever been in a place in history where you've seen the president of the United States engaged in changing the way that we vote? That's the story. That's a Texas story that I just gave you. I want to tell you this. That's what it means to be Texas first. Not forgetting where we came from. Not pretending our histories were identical, but understanding that our futures are connected. Let me do this real quick. Everybody knows Barbara Jordan, what she stood for in the state of Texas. Maybe people outside of Texas just coming in, maybe they don't know. Not too far from that statue of not too far from that statue. It's a place called Fifth Ward. It was a representation of Houston. That's what Barbara Jordan was. That's what she grew up doing segregation when Fifth Ward was still mixed. She graduated from Texas Southern University. She became a lawyer. She entered politics in 1966. Barbara Jordan won election to the Texas State Senate. She became the first Black woman elected into that body. And then in 1972, let me share this with you. In 1972, she was elected to Congress from Texas 18th Congressional District, the one that they just messed up, the one that they just divided, the one that they kicked out Judge Al Green from his district. That was Barbara Jordan's district. Let me just say that. A black woman from Fifth Ward was now sitting in the United States Congress. What does that tell you? Let me tell you what else she did, because I need you to understand this. During Watergate, America heard this extraordinary voice speaking about the Constitution. But before America knew Barbara Jordan, Houston knew where she came from. Fifth Ward, Wheatley, Texas Southern, a community that segregation tried to keep outside of the room. See, I'm old enough to know what segregation did to a community that was out there. It shipped us from one side of town. It brought people from the side of town that we was on over to our side of town. It just messed up the whole school system here in the state of Texas. Segregation did more damage to communities than anything else, I think, in the history. Segregation messed up everybody for generations. Just want to tell you, and I'm still moving. I got to go. Mickey Leland. Mickey Leland came after Barbara Jordan. He grew up in Houston. Guess what school he attended? Wheatley. He attended the same university. He studied pharmacy. But the civil rights era was transforming young people. Mickey Leland became an activist. His health care mattered to him. Poverty mattered to him. Hunger mattered to him. He entered the Texas legislature. Then Barbara Jordan decided to leave Congress. Mickey Leland then ran for her seat to replace her. He won in 1979. He entered the United States Congress, and his fight against hunger, I want to share this with you because you need to understand what he fought for when he was there. His fight against hunger eventually became international. He traveled to Africa. He went where the people were suffering the most at that time. Because, let me break this down to you so you can understand. See, in Texas, one of the things that we always had a lot of when I was growing up was food. We didn't depend on outside sources as much as we depend on them now. Go down I-10 and any freeway that you go down, because I just did it this weekend, and I'm going to continue to say this. I-10 going East Texas up toward Louisiana used to be nothing but farming fields. You look out there now, the dirt is hard as I don't know what. But if you continue to look in those fields in the far away from the road, you start seeing farm equipment out there rusted. That same farm equipment helped produce food within the state of Texas. When Mickey Leland was traveling to Africa to help them, they didn't have food. But it looks like that transition is changing. Well, we're going to eventually, food is going to be necessary in the state of Texas. But the people that's in the office right now have no vision for food. They have vision for data centers. They have vision for billionaires. They have vision for everything except the people of Texas. That's not a vision that I want to be in. I want to be a part of a vision that's set up for the people within Texas to do better. Let me continue with this. Then in 1989, while traveling on a humanitarian mission to Ethiopia, his aircraft crashed. He died trying to make things better and getting food to outside of the United States, getting involved in Africa where they didn't have any food, where their transition is more or less what we transition into now. If we don't change things, we're going to eventually be a third world country looking for food because we're not planting nothing. We're not growing nothing. What we're doing is taking our farmers out of the fields, and their next generation don't even want to go out there because it's not worth it. So we're losing knowledge at the same time. You got to understand the big picture, because if you're looking at a little bit of picture and you say, what's going on? Well, what's going on is that we're losing knowledge of the people that ran those big farms because they're not passing it on. Their kids don't want to go out there and starve to death. hoping that things change. The only hope that we got is we got to put people in place like Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico so this thing can change. I don't know how many times I can say that. Let me just keep on going. L. Franco Lee. That door was open. Another Fifth Ward son. L. Franco Lee. L. Franco Lee attended Wheatley. That was one of the schools that they talking about closing down was Wheatley. You see how much history come out of Wheatley? How many people? Went to Texas Southern University. He and Mickey Leland became friends. Lee participated in grassroots political work connected to Leland. When Mickey Leland moved from the Texas House to Congress, L. Franco Lee won the election to the Texas legislature. I'm just telling you, we have to work together. Lee made another move in 1984. He won the election to Harris County Commissioners Court. He took the office. L. Franco Lee became the first Black elected Harris County Commissioner. And what did that do for him with that power? Parks, healthcare, senior programs, youth programs, street Olympics. He believed political power should produce something people actually use. There's a park out there named for him, and it's on this side of town. It's right out there off of Black Hawk. I'm just telling you some stuff that I'm adding a little bit to it. A healthcare center, a place for children to play. That was the stuff that he stood for, something that's standing in the neighborhood after a politician leaves. Lee served for more than 30 years. He died in 2016. There are two Lees. I want to say this because I need you to understand. There are two Lees that became politicians, recognizable politicians. Sheila Jackson Lee. We need to clear up a misunderstanding. L. Franco Lee and Sheila Jackson Lee were not related. L. Franco Lee was not her husband. He was not her brother. They were two separate people from two separate families. Sheila Jackson Lee's husband was Elwyn Lee. But because Houston had two prominent Black political leaders named Lee serving during the same era, people understandably connected the names. The real connection was the political history and the community service, not family. Sheila Jackson Lee was born in Queens, New York. She attended Yale. She earned her degree from the University of Virginia. She came to Houston to serve as a municipal judge. Later served on Houston City Council. Then in 1994, she challenged Congressman Greg Washington in the Democratic primary. She won in 1995. Sheila Jackson Lee entered Congress and took and aided people from the 18th Congressional District. Guess who served in those seats prior to her? Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington. Then Sheila remained there for 3 decades, 30 years. She died in 2024. Another generation had left the room. Here's the next person I'm going to tell you about. I got to get through this real fast because I don't want to get out here too long. Sylvester Turner grew up in Acres Homes. He attended the University of Houston. He returned to Texas, practiced law, and entered politics in 1989. He began serving in the House. Then he became mayor of Houston, and during his mayor years, Houston faced a Hurricane Harvey, homes flooded, families displaced, entire communities devastated. Turner served 8 years as mayor. Then after Sheila Jackson Lee died, Sylvester Turner was elected to the same 18th congressional seat associated with Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Sheila Jackson Lee. He entered Congress in January 2025. Then only weeks later, on March 5th, 2025, Sylvester Turner, another chapter closed. But that story didn't stop. That story didn't stop Houston, because while Black Americans were fighting for representation and for fighting for representation and opportunity, Mexican American Texans were building their own movements. Different story, different circumstances, very similar question. Who belongs? Who gets represented? Who receives education? Who receives fair treatment? Whose voice matters? Now we travel south. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna butcher some of these names, but don't hold it against me. Jovita Idar. Go to Laredo. Go to Laredo. Jovita Idar, teacher, journalist, activist. She used the written word to challenge discrimination against Mexican Americans. She fought for education. She organized women. She wrote about injustices at the time when Mexican American voices could easily have been ignored. I'm itching. Then she went to San Antonio. Then we're gonna go to San Antonio. We're going to San Antonio because there's Irma. Don't butcher me on this. I'm gonna spell her name. Tenayuca. I can't say it, but I'm gonna spell it. Tenayuca. We're in San Antonio. Irma T. We're gonna call her Irma T. She became a labor organizer while still being young. In 1938, she became a central leader in San Antonio pecan sheller strike. Thousands of workers, many of Mexican American women, were working under temporary conditions, extremely low wages. Irma T stood with them. That is also the Texas history. Not somebody asking for special treatment. Workers asking whether their labor had value. Now I can say this next one. Then we're gonna go to Corpus Christi. Hector P. García. Dr. Hector P. García, physician, military veteran, civil rights leader, Mexican American veteran, had served the United States, returned home, and still faced discrimination. In 1948, García founded the American GI Forum. His message was powerful. In Mexican Americans, let me just say this. If Mexican Americans were American enough to fight for this country, I'm going to say it again because you need to hear this. If Mexican Americans were American enough to fight for this country, they were American enough to be treated as equal at home. Education, he fought for education, veterans' rights, voting, health care, political representation. We're going to move on because we need to move on and let you know that it was people on both sides that were struggling that got us to where we at. Then there was Henry B. González. Back to San Antonio. Henry B. González, he broke barriers in the city government. He entered the state senate. Let me say that again because you need to hear this. This Hispanic entered the state senate. He fought for segregation legislation. Then he entered the United States Congress. Another Mexican American Texan walking into institutions where people from his community had historically lacked representation. We got to keep it moving because it's a lot of people that's here, and I don't want to lose anybody, but I want y'all to understand what I'm saying. Then came Irma Rangel, educator, attorney, legislator. She became the first Mexican American woman elected to the Texas House. She became the first Mexican American woman elected to the Texas House. Another barrier came down. Another chair was occupied. Another generation could look at government and see somebody who came from their experience. So I just want to let you know that we have all struggled, Hispanics and blacks. We have all struggled to go somewhere. The black struggle also went through the courts. Heman Sweatt. Sweatt wanted to attend the University of Texas School of Law. He was denied admission because he was black. He challenged Texas. The case became the Sweatt versus Plank Painter in 1950. The United States Supreme Court ruled in his favor. The case helped weaken legal foundation for segregation. But Sweatt wasn't standing alone. Let me just keep on going. Lulu Belle, white. Lulu Belle White. Behind that fight stood people like Lulu Belle White. She was one of Houston's major civil rights organizers. She worked through the NAACP. She organized. She challenged the white primary. She helped build strategy that puts cases before courts. History often remembers the person standing at the microphone, but the movements also need to remember the people working behind the microphone. Lulu Belle White was one of those people working behind the microphone. Juanita Craft. Then Dallas gives us Juanita Craft. Craft organized the NAACP branches across Texas. She fought segregation. She worked with young people. She helped register people and built a political participation. She helped register young people and build political representation. And that's important because political power doesn't begin on election day. It begins before the election day. Somebody organizes, somebody registers, somebody educates, somebody decides their vote matters. Here's another one, James Farmer Jr. Then we go into Marshall, Texas. James Farmer Jr. He graduated from Wiley College, a young black Texan who became one of the founders of CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. His work eventually became connected to the Freedom Rides and the National Civil Rights Movement. And again, Texas history, American history. Bessie Coleman. And sometimes the barrier wasn't the political office after all. Bessie Coleman, born in Atlanta, Texas, and raised in Waxahachie, Texas. She wanted to fly. Listen to what I'm saying. She wanted to fly. American flight schools wouldn't train her. She was black. She was a woman. Bessie Coleman went overseas. She learned to fly. And she became the first black woman who earned an international pilot's license. Sometimes breaking the barrier means walking into the room, and sometimes it means flying over it. You know, we're going to take a look at the map right now. Houston, Dallas, Marshall, Waxahachie, San Antonio, Corpus, Laredo, the Rio Grande Valley, Austin. These aren't separate historical places anymore. Put them on one Texas map. Black Texans fought for segregation. Mexican American Texans fought discrimination. Black parents fought for schools. Mexican American parents fought for schools. Black workers fought for opportunity. Mexican workers fought for opportunity too. Black veterans returned home expecting citizenship. Mexican Americans returned home expecting citizenship too. The details are different, but the histories wasn't that much different. But the fundamental American question that keeps appearing, does citizenship belong equally to everybody? And that's where Texas First becomes more than a slogan. It means that you can remember the different histories while recognizing a shared responsibility. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. Texas First. And now I want to share something with you because I can't tell you a lot about the past without telling you about the future. Gina Hinojosa. Now bring that history into the present. Gina Hinojosa was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley. She attended public schools in Brownsville. She went to the University of Texas. She then earned a law degree at the George Washington University. She became a civil rights labor attorney. Then something happened to many parents something happened that many parents understand. Education became personal. Her son's elementary school faced closure. She became involved in that fight over Austin schools. She ran for Austin ISD school board. She won. She eventually became a school board president. Then she ran for the Texas House. She won. She represented the House District 49 since 2017. And in 26, Gina Hinojosa became the Democratic nominee for the state of Texas. A girl raised in the Rio Grande Valley is now asking voters across Texas for the opportunity to lead the state. See, they won't tell you how she got there. She has fought within school systems to make it better for everybody. She served in those school systems, and she fought because she wanted to keep schools available to everybody. That's Gina. You may not understand anything else about Gina, but you need to understand what she's went through and how she got there and how she's representing Texas, how she could represent Texas in the governor's seat. Texas voter will decide what comes next for Gina, but I'm telling you. And then there's James Tallarico, another present-day figure, comes from a different background. James Tallarico grew up in Central Texas. He attended Texas public schools. He graduated from the University of Texas, then became a public school teacher, taught the 6th grade on San Antonio's west side. His classroom contained children from families facing economic changes. And that experience helped shape his view of government because the education policy looks different when you're standing inside that classroom. Tallarico later studied the educational policy. Let me lean in when I say this. Tallarico later studied education policy at Harvard. Then he returned to Texas and ran for the Texas House. He won the election. He won the election. Education remains central to his political identity. Tallarico lives with type 1 diabetes. He became involved in the legislation addressing insulin costs. Faith also became a part of his public message. He studied at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary and speaks openly about his Christianity. While arguing against using Christianity as a weapon of a political division, in 2026, James Tallarico became the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate. His chapter isn't finished either. Texas voters will decide what comes next. I went through this. I gave you the path. I led you down the path to tell you who these people are. Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico represent the closest representation to me. With them being in office, I can envision somebody like me eventually, or somebody of my color eventually becoming governor, lieutenant governor, or any down ballot candidate there. But this is what we have before us when we're deciding on how to vote, because we need to have proper representation in the state of Texas. Now let's get something straight. Out of all the stuff I shared with you, I want to break it down like this. Gina Hinojosa is not Barbara Jordan, and we ain't expecting her to do. James Tallarico is not Mickey Leland. They haven't earned the monuments of those people. Their complete record hasn't been written. They're living politics seeking greater responsibility. They should be questioned. You should be able to ask them any questions, like Candace Weber did in Houston. They should be able to answer those questions from anybody. You're running for state office, you're running for national office. You need to tell them what separate the two. Separate the two and tell them what the job defines, because people may be asking James Tallarico questions that the governor needs to answer. The governor may be answering questions that James Tallarico should be answering. That's two different positions. Don't mix up the two, but put them together so when you ask questions, one of them can stand up and say, I got the answer to that. And if something that other person couldn't answer, the other person can stand up, because that's representation of Texas. That's how we get better. But if we don't change and we don't unify those two offices together and understand the power that they bring to Texas together under one roof, we're going to lose. It's a possibility we're going to lose, because they're going to start attacking, separating one from the other one. And in the end, we lose. I'm gonna cover that on Wednesday when we come in. When I do my other show at 1 o'clock, you're invited to join me at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it's going to cost us if we don't unite them two under one flag. Because history shouldn't educate us, not tell us blindly who deserves our vote. But look at what history has made possible. I'm going to get out of here after I say this. A black woman from the Fifth Ward could become Barbara Jordan. A young pharmacist from Houston could become Mickey Leland. A Fifth Ward organizer could become Franco Lee. A Mexican-American doctor could organize veterans across America. A Mexican-American woman could become Irma Rangel. A black man denied admission into the UT could take Texas to the Supreme Court and win. A Mexican-American girl from the Rio Grande Valley grew up and became a major party nominee for governor. A public school teacher from Central Texas could become a major party nominee for the United States Senate. That progression matters. Not because everybody must vote the same way, but because everybody should understand how hard people fought to get those people in place, James Talarico and Gina Hinojosa. For Texas to have choices in the first place, we're going to go back to that monument. That takes me back to my Kashmere Gardens day, back to Mickey Leland, back to that monument. Maybe the monument isn't supposed to tell us what to think. Maybe it's supposed to make us think. Mickey Leland can't vote anymore. Barbara Jordan can't vote anymore. Franco Lee can't vote anymore. Sheila Jackson Lee can't vote. Sylvester can't vote. Hector García can't vote. Henry B. González can't vote. Jovita Idar can't vote. Emma T. can't vote. James Sweatt can't vote. Juanita Craft can't vote. But we can. We can. Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico represent two candidates standing at the edge of another chapter. Whether Texas chooses them is up to Texans. And that's the whole key behind it. What I'm really getting at is it's up to Texans to make that choice. Every time I put out one of these videos, if you go in and you go behind them and you follow them through, in the comment sections, you know where it's coming from? People outside of the state of Texas. Texans want a better Texas. The only way that we can get a better Texas is if we have to change what's been in office for 30 years, or we just going to repeat the cycle. It's not going to be easy. Don't let the polls tell you that they're almost even, because if they're almost even, Abbott has 67 million that he can run ads and basically block out everything that Gina Hinojosa has the ability to do. But you know the one thing that he cannot do, and that's the groundwork that we're going to have to take upon ourselves to get Gina and James Talarico to the next level, is we're going to have to share every single positive piece of information that we can about Gina Hinojosa and about James Talarico. We're going to have to share it on our individual pages. If you got 2 or 3 of them, I don't know why you got them, but I got 4, and I'm sharing every bit of information I can about Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico to those pages, because I need you to understand you don't have to beat them with the amount of money that they got. You need to beat them at the ballot box, and that's more important than the amount of money they got, because the ballots is what's going to take people into office. The money that they're sharing, they have to cover up a whole bunch of stuff that they did. And every time that they try to cover it up, you need to come on your page and say, oh, no, that ain't going to work this time. 30 years. And you're still doing the same thing. You brought data centers to Texas saying that that's going to be the best thing since mom's apple pie. Now you want to say, oh, no, hold up. We need to change it before election. Because now you realizing that some of those voters that may have been voting for you don't like it. Then your attorney general run for Senate in a place where he really shouldn't be. His reputation is gone. His representation is gone. So I just want to say that we need to build a bigger future. We need to build a bigger future. It belongs to Texas, belongs to the people of Texas. Black Texans, Hispanic Texans, white Texans, Asian Texans, Native Texans, young Texans, older Texans, rural Texans, urban Texans, people whose families have been here for generations, and people building their first generation here. We don't have to share the same history to share responsibility for what happens next. Texas first. That's the lesson I brought home from Kashmere Gardens. Our ancestors, our predecessors didn't struggle, so we could spread the future fighting over who belongs. The open doors, the challenge, they challenge. Let me. I need to make sure I get this right. They opened doors. They challenged institutions. They organized communities. They built movements. They went to court. They entered classrooms. They walked into city halls. They entered the Texas Capitol. They entered Congress. And some gave their lives while serving others. Not another generation stands at the door. Gina Hinojosa, James Chalaruka, and many of the others whose name we may not know yet. History cannot tell us who to choose, but history can remind us that choice matters. So learn the history, study the candidates, ask questions like Candace Weber, check the facts, register if you're not eligible to vote, register if you're not eligible to vote, and make your own decision because the chair never belonged to the politician. The chair belongs to the people. The monument remembers who came before us. The ballot helps determine who comes after us. And the future of Texas, that all belongs to us. I'll say it again. You can read it behind me as I lean to the left and lean to the right. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. Texas first. What I tried to give you was real history, real answers, real power, and where it belongs in the room. I hope you enjoyed this show. I need to unite us, not divide us, because that's what Abbott is trying to do. That's what Ken Paxton is going to try to do, is divide us. As long as we stay united, we have enough people to make a difference. We need a couple more. Well, I'm sure if they look at the track record of Greg Abbott, we can get that other bunch to come over too. With that being said, I want to say thank God, because without God's giving me the vision to be here and speak the way I do through these airways, I wouldn't be here. So I always, from day one, I always say thank God as I come to the end. I want to challenge you to listen to my podcast on Wednesday, which says that we may lose 2 candidates if we don't unite. I gave you a lot of history of Hispanics and Blacks today. I want to give you something different tomorrow because I need you to come out and join in as Pastor Riggins and Byron Glass and myself expose many different things that's going on in the world that we should be concerned about. We should be really concerned about what's going on in the world right now. So I'm just telling you, join in tomorrow. 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Join in Wednesday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Join in Wednesday, I think it's 7 o'clock. Don't hold me to it, as Pastor Riggins holds Bible study. He'll announce it tomorrow. So if you join in tomorrow, you'll hear it again. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I ran over, but I need to get all the information out there so you can understand. We have to change. We can change Texas. We can put Gina Hinojosa in the governor's seat, put James Tallarico in the Senate, and they can combine the effort that we never seen in Texas. They can work together. Y'all take care. Enjoyed this. Enjoyed it. Most definitely enjoyed it. Bye-bye.